This is the latest in a series of events that CNAS has been holding an Asia-Pacific security program, and it's organized around the subject of maritime security in the region. Now, this is an important subject. Indeed, just yesterday, National Security Advisor Susan Rice identified maritime security as one of the most pressing security issues in Asia today. So with this in mind, this conference, as its title implies, is all about how we might reduce tensions at sea, mitigate risks of escalation and conflict over maritime territorial disputes, and ultimately advance peace and security throughout the region.
Let me take this opportunity to thank all of you for the expressions of sympathy and support for our suffering people in the Philippines, particularly those who live in the devastated areas, particularly the two provinces, Leyte and Samar. And as you probably know, more than 4,000 people were killed, over 18,000 been injured, and close to 4 million have been displaced from their homes, and about 10 million people affected in 44 provinces.
We're beginning with the conversation on Japan-China relations, in part because in terms of the large naval capabilities of Asian powers, Japan and China are obviously the hugest, and the potential for maritime clashes between Japan and China has both escalated and raised a tremendous amount of concern here in the United States.
Japan and China, particularly China, domestic situations become more complicated and paralyzing sometimes the Chinese foreign policies.
In the case of the South China Sea, what makes it very difficult for delimitation to happen is essentially because in addition to what is provided for under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, in the case of our neighbor in the north, they have this expansive claim.
I believe that it's important for the United States, as it is important for all states, to support and defend the system developed under UNCLOS. Why? Because I believe it's the key to a stable global maritime order and the health of the global economic and security system that underpins this order.
I wonder whether it's a good thing that the U.S. has restricted its own position to simply that we want free navigation through the South China Sea, rather than eschewing any possible position so far.
The arbitration case itself is a risk for the Philippines. I mean, it's like a gamble, and that is a very serious move, and we do hope that it results in something very good, and it has the potential to change the situation in the South China Sea.
Of course, the primary U.S. interest in both the South China Sea and East China Sea disputes is to avoid a conflict amongst the parties, and we constantly are urging the parties to reach peaceful settlements. Even more important for us is to not get pulled into one of these conflicts, and of course there is a risk of that because of our defense commitments both to Japan and to the Philippines.
I think we know what we need to do when it comes to confidence building. We know what kind of steps you can take to make the ocean safer.
Personally, I'm not that optimistic regarding the possibility of China-Japan reaching a so-called solution.
The location of Taiwan is the closest to Diaoyutai Island compared to China and Japan. So if you have map. So in other words, it's not just Taiwan is not just one of the claimants, but also a very important security stakeholders.
The fact that yesterday, when National Security Advisor Susan Rice spoke about the commitment of the second term to the rebalancing to Asia policy, she emphasized maritime tensions, and in the questions and answers, she seemed to equate China and Japan as equally likely to escalate tensions.
The U.S. policy community, I suspect the policy community in Japan and China both, were actually taken aback by the pace and the alacrity, I think, by which the two countries really found themselves on the verge of a military, if not confrontation, at least interaction, that I think neither country wanted.
There's a lot of talk about such things as the air-sea battle, the pivot to Asia, rebalancing offshore controls. And unfortunately, a lot of people in Asia think that's a strategy. And let me tell you, as a military man, it ain't.
We're very honored at CNAS to have former Minister of Defense and three-time Minister of the Environment, Yuriko Koike, who's been one of the true parliamentary leaders in Japan, probably the most famous woman in Japanese politics.
Today, however, Japan has pulled itself out of its rut, and with it, it has also sought to revitalize its alliance with the United States and its place in Asia. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has been very proactive in both of these areas.